Young men who have been raised by single mothers, they don't quite know what they are lacking, though they sense it. They sense that they are lacking something essential. And they look at their peers who were not raised by single mothers, but rather raised by a dutifully constituted family, that is, a mother and a father, and raised right. And those guys seem to be so much more successful than young men who were raised by single mothers. And so the obvious question is, what to do? You're raised by a single mother, and so what are you supposed to do? What's going on? Where do you go? This isn't a trivial problem. A young man who's been raised by a single mother knows that he is lacking something essential in his makeup, but just can't quite identify it because he's so wrapped up in his own problems. And he knows that he is lacking something and just doesn't know where to go. And of course, the current society is not giving any kind of advice about it because they're saying that, being raised by a single mother is hunky-dory. It's all great. It's all peaches and cream, right? Where you and I and everybody, we know that that's so much bullshit, but that's the contemporary lie that's being spread around. That being raised by a single mother is perfectly fine, A-OK, hunky-dory. It's not, of course. Being raised by a single mother is a disaster for most young men. And it boils down to a single issue. The single issue that differentiates the guy who was raised by a mother and a father and the guy who was raised by a single mother. And that single issue is how you handle fear. See, every guy, every person, every human being on this earth feels fear. It's perfectly normal. I mean, you see something that scares you, and of course you're going to be afraid. Of course you're going to be worried and insecure and wondering how you're going to handle it, right? But it's how you handle the emotion that differentiates the guys who were raised by their mother and the father knew what the hell he was doing, right? And the single mother, okay? Now, what happens, of course, is that, see, the guy who was raised by a single mother, what happened whenever he was afraid? He was soothed. His mother would come and soothe him, and he was afraid of whatever was going out in the world. He was a 4-year-old scared of the dark, or he was a 20-year-old scared of changing colleges or whatever. What would the mother do, the single mother? She would do the best that she could. She was not a bad person, on the contrary. She was a hard-working woman, and she would do the best that she could. And what was the best that she could do? She would soothe the child. She would soothe you. She would soothe you of your fears and worries. And so you'd be soothed, but you wouldn't know how to handle your fear. Whereas, what does a father do? A father teaches a son how to handle his fear, or more properly, how to get over his fear. And sometimes he pushes and shoves the child into handling his fear. Sometimes not particularly adeptly, but enough so that the kid learns the tools or gets the tools to handle whatever fear comes his way. Let me give you an example. Suppose you're a 6-year-old, right? And you're learning to ride a bike, right? Well, you get on the bike, and of course you wobble around a little bit and you fall and you scrape your knee and it hurts and you get scared, which is perfectly normal, okay? I mean, that's perfectly fine. We've all been there, okay? Of course we have, right? What does the mother do? The mother goes there and kisses the boo-boo away, soothes the kid, and says, oh, don't worry, you don't have to go on the bike. And that's the mistake. That's the mistake that she's making, and she's not making this mistake out of, being an evil woman or something like that. On the contrary, okay? And the mother wants the best for the kid, and the mother instinctively only knows how to soothe the kid. But the father, what is he going to do? He's going to tell the kid, well, yeah, of course it hurts, but, get back on it. Get back on the bike. Go again. And of course, sometimes the kid is not going to want that. And sometimes the father, ham-fistedly, not very clever in a psychological sense, he's going to start yelling at the kid and tell the kid, get on the fucking bike, kid. Go and ride the fucking bike, right? And the kid, of course, is going to be traumatized and all the rest of it, but he's going to get on the fucking bike, right? Yeah. And the kid the father will force him, and sometimes, like I said, ham-fistedly. And the kid will get on the bike and ride again, and eventually master it. He might fall a few more times, sure, but eventually he's going to master it. And he might have resentment towards the father. He might say that the father was a son of a bitch who didn't, soothe him and make him feel all better before he pushed him on the bike again. But you see the point, the kid is going to learn how to go on the bike. He might wind up hating the father, but he's going to be riding the bike. Whereas the kid whose mother just soothed him and calmed him down and told him, oh, you don't have to ride the bike if you don't really feel like it. What's going to happen with him? He's going to be afraid of riding the bicycle. He's going to be terrified of riding the bicycle. And riding the bicycle will become a bigger and bigger thing in his imagination. And it will be something that he will never be able to overcome. Unlike the other kid whose father pushed him. And you see what's going on. You see how simple that dynamic goes. Huh? The father's going to push the kid. The father's going to push the kid and is not going to put up with him saying, no, I'm scared and I'm crying and I don't really feel like doing it. The father's going to keep on pushing him for various reasons. Sometimes out of impatience, sometimes because the father will recognize that if a kid doesn't learn how to go on the bicycle, he'll be the only kid in the neighborhood who doesn't know how to go on the bicycle and will therefore be left behind. And the father doesn't want that. He might not be able to articulate this, but he instinctively knows that this is a bad thing, that he does not want his kid to be left behind. He wants his kid to be with the pack of the other kids riding their bicycles around in the neighborhood. You see? You see what's going on? And it's not that the mother is an evil person, and it's not that the father is, pushing the kid to ride the bicycle for no obvious reason. No. It's for very clear reasons. Perhaps reasons that neither can articulate, but those reasons are valid, and they're valid from an evolutionary perspective. Yeah, because mothers are supposed to soothe their children. That's the whole point of having a mother. They're supposed to soothe them and care for them. And a lot of times, the act of soothing a child is essential to diagnose what's the problem with the child. Because it could be that the child is just having a tantrum, and so the mother soothes him and he calms down, and that's that, right? But it could be that the kid is actually sick. Okay? And if she tries to soothe him and he's still having a colic or whatever, I'm talking like babies, right? Then it's going to be a signal to the mother that something was wrong with the child. See? And so that's why the mother instinctively always tries to soothe the child. But the father, on the other hand, he's pushing the kid forward so that the kid integrates with his peers. Because if think of it from the time that we were hunter-gatherers out in the savannah in Africa, right? We were going out there. It would be the women and the old people and the infants would be out gathering berries and whatnot, nuts and tubers and what have you, so that they could survive. And the men, starting from ages 6 on up, they would all gather together and they would go out as a pack to hunt for the woolly mammoth, get the meat for the tribe. That's what they did. And so they needed to push the little kids, especially, to go out there and do what the older ones were already doing, what the adult men were doing, which was necessary in order to survive. And so the fathers pushed the child, pushed the boys to do what was necessary. They didn't push the girls because it wasn't necessary. See, the girls, they didn't have to do much because all they had to do was gather, and eventually some mate would come to the girls, right? But the boy had to go out and hunt for the woolly mammoth, had to go out and get the girl. Yeah, because guys, men by definition, we're hunters. We go out there and we pursue stuff. We try to capture it. And you need somebody to teach you how to do this. And if you're raised by a single mother, of course, you don't have anyone to teach you how to do this. This, of course, applies to chasing women. Of course, yeah, the modern day prey, yeah. A guy raised by a single mother, he's not going to know how to handle a woman, how to chase her, or which woman to chase, or how to do it. He's not going to have any fucking clue because he didn't have a man to tell him how to do this, a father or a father figure. And do keep in mind, see, when I talk about like a hunter-gatherer group, right, and the whole pack of men going off to hunt the woolly mammoth, right, you think that in those hours and hours spent, not just with the father, but the child spent time with the uncles and the longtime family friends, male family friends, right? He didn't learn stuff from them, if only from observing what they were doing. Of course he did. But nowadays, we don't have that luxury. We do not have this extended fraternity. In point of fact, we have the whole societies out hell-bent for leather on destroying any kind of fraternity that can teach younger men how to act, how to behave, how to go out into the world, right? And so it's quite natural that a young man raised by a single mother is not going to know what to do. He's not going to know what to do in terms of getting a girl. And worse still, he's going to listen to his mother's advice, his single mother's advice, as to how to get a girl. And it's going to be a fucking disaster. Yeah, because the single mother, what's she going to tell her son? She's going to tell him, yeah, just be yourself and be a nice guy. That's what she's going to tell him. Yeah, which is, of course, the absolute worst advice you could possibly give a young guy insofar as getting women. Yeah. I mean, you tell a poor guy that, he's not going to get laid until the rapture, for crying out loud. And I'm not even a Protestant, I'm a Catholic. And that's how long it's going to take to get laid if you're thinking that. If you're thinking that, just be yourself and just be a nice guy. It's never going to happen. See? A guy, a father, can tell you what it takes to get a girl. Yeah. And what it takes to get a girl is completely different. It's not being a nice guy, and it's not being yourself. On the contrary, it's being what the woman wants, which is solidity, strength. That's what women want. And mild indifference to women. That's what women want. They want a guy who doesn't quite care about women, about that particular woman, whichever woman that is, even if he's crazy about her, but he just projects indifference towards her, and he goes towards his own goal. He goes single-mindedly towards that goal of his that is the thing that he wants in this world. And the women who will be attracted to him, they will be attracted to him because of that. Because he's going his own way, going in the direction that he wants, towards the goal that he envisions for himself. And women will be extraordinarily attracted to such a man. But they won't be attracted to a nice guy. They won't be attracted to a guy who's just like an amoeba, just lying there, being himself, without any goal, without any drive, without any push. They don't want that. But the single mother doesn't realize this because it's what she wants. She wants that kind of guy. That's what's going on. Also, the single mother, she sees her son as this perfect little man, and the man that she would like to have been hers, not when she was young, but now that she's older. And so in a very real way, in a very perverse way. And it's not me shitting on single mothers, but it's the truth. Single mothers, they tend to try to turn their sons into passive little yes men, because that's what they want. They want a passive little yes man who will treat them right, because so often as not, these single mothers were not treated very well. Not treated very well by men, of course. And so they want the man in their life, the son. They want that man in her life to treat her as she wished she had been treated, but was not. It's the truth, And you can say that it's a little weird, or this or that, Freudian, blah, blah, whatever. I don't care. That's the truth of the matter. The single mother wants to turn her child into her into the lover, the husband, the provider that she wished she had had. The lover, husband, provider that does whatever she wants. And she's not, trying to cripple her son, but ultimately she does cripple him because she turns him into this thing, this little yes man, ruled by fear. Yeah, because the single mother's little man, the single mother's little man, of course, is always going to be afraid of getting the displeasure of his mother, because his mother is the only person alive who cares for him. Yeah. And they might fight and bitch and moan and this and that, but he's never really going to overstep his boundaries, because he's always going to be afraid. He's always going to be afraid that potentially this one person in the world who gives a shit about him might leave him. And so he's going to do whatever she wants. Yeah. And she's going to act, he is going to act rather, in the ways that she wants. She's going to behave in this very passive way, this very fearful way, and he will not be able to manage his fear for his future, manage his fear of women, manage his fear of the situation he finds himself in, because he's always going to be afraid that he's going to lose this fount of support, or more to the point, this fount of soothing. The single mother will soothe you, the son of a single mother. She will soothe you, but she will not give you the tools to succeed, because she can't. And I'm sure she's a wonderful person. I'm sure she's just salt of the earth, but she cannot give you the tools that you will need to succeed in the world, because she will not teach you how to control your fear in everything that we pursue. Be it business, be it your profession, your career, be it women, being social status, in everything. You will always feel fear. It's perfectly normal. Because if you are striving towards something, there is always the possibility of failure. And that possibility of failure, you imagine it, and it makes you afraid, which is normal. It's how you handle the fear. Since mothers do not teach young men how to handle their fear, rather, single mothers don't teach young men how to handle their fear. These young men, if they don't learn the tools to manage their own fear, they can be devoured by it. That's why so often as not, it's the young men who are children of single mothers who don't amount to anything, even though they're smart and talented and they've got everything to succeed, but they don't succeed because they're so afraid. They don't know how to handle their fear. The father who was ham-fistedly teaching the son how to ride a bicycle, and finally yelling at the kid and saying, "Get on the fucking bike and go," you know? And eventually the kid did it, and it was just a big old traumatic disaster. Well, the kid learned to control his fear. His fear of his old man was greater than his fear of falling off the bicycle. And so he went on the bicycle and went down the street. And pretty soon he got to be kind of good on going on a bicycle and joined the other kids running around, and you know, that was that. And he might hate his old man for having forced him to get on the bicycle and not having managed the kid in a way that would have resulted in the same thing, but in a gentler manner. But it doesn't matter. Results are what matter. The kid is not afraid of going on the bicycle because he got pushed. Because fathers push their kids. And in that pushing, the kid will learn the tools to manage his fear. Sometimes very wise fathers, smart fathers, teach the kid to manage their fear consciously. They manage to show the kid that, yes, of course, you're going to be afraid. But see, it's important that you do this. So try it again. And I know that you're scared, but try again. And that's a wise father. There are very few of them. Most fathers, and I'll admit myself included, sometimes we just get goddamn impatient and we just want to push the kid to do the fucking thing because it's necessary. It's necessary not because it's that important to ride a bicycle. No, because it's important to learn how to manage your fear, control your fear. Because only by controlling your fear can you take the next step forward in your ambitions and become a bigger man. But single mothers don't see it that way. They don't see it that way because they are constitutionally unable to see it that way. In point of fact, they get upset when the father pushes the kid. I'm talking about in a regular marriage, okay? It happens all the time. Yeah, whenever I push my kid to do anything, his mother is always on my ass. Yeah, oh, don't do it, and blah, 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 you know. But the kid and I instinctively know that it's what he needs. Yeah, and the mother gets in the way sometimes. Yeah, and it's not out of being a bad person. I want to insist on this, okay? It's not that the single mother is trying to keep the son down. It's just the way that women are. It's the way that mothers are. You're a young man, or maybe not so young. You're the child of a single mother, and your life is probably filled with fear. You're afraid of everything, and that fear has paralyzed you. That fear has paralyzed you and kept you from achieving the things that you wanted. Achieving the things that you wanted in your career, perhaps. Achieving the things you wanted with women. Achieving those things that you wanted insofar as social status. Well, I'll tell you, it's never too late, okay? It is never too late to turn your life around. I don't care how old you are or how far gone you are. It is never too late to change your life around. And this particular problem is actually easy, okay? The thing you have to understand is you have to manage your fear. You have to learn to control it. You have to understand that your fear is a horse that you are riding on. And what you have to do is grab the reins of that wild horse and pull back until that horse stops. This is an easy thing once you become self-conscious about it, once you become aware of it, once you understand that fear is always with you. And the only thing that changes is how you control and manage that fear. Once you understand that fear is an emotion to be managed just like any other emotion, then you can turn your life around. You're afraid of women for whatever reason. Or more likely than not, you're afraid of women because your single mother didn't help you figure out how to get the women that you want, right? Well, you have to understand to yourself that the fear that you feel is irrational, because the woman that you approach is not going to bite your head off. She's not like a praying mantis or some shit like that, right? And so what you have to do is you have to just approach this woman and understand there are 50, 100, 1,000 other women out there just as good as the one that you're talking to, if not better. And you have to understand too that, getting the girl that you want is just a numbers game. The more women you go after, the more likely you are to succeed, You fail at 100% of the shots you don't take. Exactly. Just keep on plugging away and understand that this fear that you have, this fear is because you're not trying hard enough, because that's what fathers teach their sons. To try again and again until they succeed, until they figure it out. That's what fathers are doing, and that's what single mothers don't do. It's taking that next step in spite of your fear. That's what you need to do. You who are paralyzed by fear, you who were raised by a single mother, you who know only that whenever you're afraid, someone will come and soothe you. This is a recipe for disaster in your life. Your life will never advance. You will never become anything of value to others or to yourself, more importantly, if you remain in this rut. And what you have to do is that whenever you confront something that scares you, you have to push forward. No matter how much it scares you, you have to just push forward and understand that the failure will hurt far less in the long run than not trying. And you have to understand that the single mother who raised you, the single mother who paralyzed you with fear because she soothed you as opposed to pushing you forward, she meant no harm. Understand that. She meant no harm, but her influence is dire, and you have to get out from under the yoke of that influence. You have to understand that in order to get what you want, soothing will not give it to you. You have to go out there and suffer and be hurt badly sometimes, suffer enormous pain. Just like riding a bicycle, you're going to skin your knee. Sometimes you're going to skin your soul to get what you want. But what you have to do is get up again and go again. And resist the temptation to turn into a ball and wait for someone to soothe you.
Are you winning, son? Hee hee hee. You look so pretty, please show me your
When you pay extra $30, I can show you my
Hee hee hee. Alright, I have my daddy's credit card. Oh shit.
Once you finish the payment, you will see my
Son, don't be a trash man that makes men ashamed. You gotta make men proud. Daddy.
Silence, wench. I do not wish to be horny anymore. I just want to be happy.
Son.